Hello, this is Graham Brown from Mobile Youth. I'm joined here today by our research manager, Freddie Benjamin. Freddie, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you, Graham.
Excellent. So, Freddie, one of the key discussion points we've been talking about at Mobile Youth is this difference between online and offline for young people today. And obviously, a lot of that is facilitated by mobile phones and social media. There's a new study out just recently by a lady called Susan Muller, who's the director of at the International Centre for Media and the Public Agenda. Now, it's an interesting study. There are a number of findings in there which we find interesting. The study is called The Tethered World, and it really studies how students use their mobile phones over a 24-hour period. And we've sort of seen a lot of these ethnographic studies in recent years, like, for example, The World Unplugged and so on. And we were discussing the findings coming out of this, and one of the findings was interesting, and it really sort of sparked some discussion in our office. And the finding was this, and I will quote here, and it says, students use mobile phones to network with others, and being part of that network is, importantly here, more real than the real world. So the assumption here is that for this generation, social media and mobile is more real than what happens offline. Freddie, I think you've got a strong opinion about this. How does that sit with you?
Thank you, Graham. And this is a really interesting study. And the finding that you just highlighted, which is, students or young people, they find the online world, the digital world, to be more real than the real world. Um, I guess I would have said that I don't really agree with that. And just to,
Hmm.
show that, I'm gonna contrast this study with another study that came out last week. And this is a study that's from Chapman University, done on college students as well. And the study specifically focuses on the young students unfriending each other on Facebook. And then it goes deep
Hmm.
into finding out why do students unfriend each other.
Right.
So, like on Facebook, one of the most common things is people complain a lot that other people post inappropriate comments or rude posts. But it turns out that's not why people unfriend each other. Now, unfriending
Hmm.
was caused mostly, and the number one reason behind unfriending was because the two people had a fallout in the offline world, and they had an argument at a party or during a discussion or even over girlfriends and boyfriends. Right?
Hmm.
So it's a really important relationship milestone that they reached in the offline world that leads to what they do in the digital or the online world. Right? And even if you look at
Right.
number two reason why people unfriend each other, it's because they didn't have enough offline connection with that person. They didn't see them enough, so they didn't feel like they need to follow them on Facebook either.
Hmm. So let me understand. What you're saying is that there are a lot of complaints and issues with online relationships and networks, and people will complain about people posting too much and so on, or people doing things on Facebook or mobile which they shouldn't be doing. But the real jugular issue as to why somebody will unfriend isn't what happens on Facebook necessarily, but what happens in the real world.
Exactly.
So the whole sort of conjecture that networks and social media are more real than the real world seems to be, well, let's put it bluntly, disproven by this data that you're talking about. It seems to say that the meaning associated with online connection is less important than what happens in the offline world. Why is that the case? We tend to sort of talk about young people in the media as the terms like the tethered generation or the
Hmm.
connected generation, and it paints these images of a generation of people who are quote unquote addicted to mobile phones, and therefore offline connections aren't so important as
Hmm.
what happens on the mobile phone or Facebook. Why is this the case?
I think it really starts with, we see young people as spending a lot of time on their mobile, always online on Facebook and other messaging apps. And even if you look at this finding from the first study, it says that what's important for young people is being a part of a network, that's digital.
Mm,
And now it's very different what being a part of a network means than what happens in your relationship. right?
Mm,
You could just be a part of network because you are kind of interested in that. You could be part of the automobile industry network. You could be part of, a particular show's fandom, and that's just being part
mm,
of. That doesn't mean you are, that that being part of that network is actively affecting your offline world. You might be accessing a lot of
mm.
content about that on your mobile, on your PC, through all these online channels. But is that really important in the offline world where relationships are created, they progress, and well, sadly enough, they end too.
Mm. I wonder as well, Freddie, if part of it is because if you're a researcher, it's easier to quantify online relationships, isn't it? I mean, you know how many Facebook friends you have because it's there right in front of you, but you don't really know how many offline friends you have, right? Nobody
Exactly.
really knows. Nobody's ever really sat down and thought it out. I mean, I've never sort of, I don't think you could never sort of quantify who a friend and who a friend isn't. So it's easier to quantify this online, this online existence, and also quantify likes and interactions and so on. But the offline seems to be a bit nebulous. So to the point about maybe why it looks like people are, more into the online is because for research it's easier. We can simply say that because it's right there in front of us. But to go offline, you really have to understand the meaning, don't you? And
Exactly.
you've just got to spend a lot more than 24 hours with somebody to understand what's going on.
Most definitely, I agree with that. I mean, if you look at somebody's Facebook profile and see they have 300 friends, then the social network is 300 people in total
Mm,
size. But if you actually look at their real lives, then you notice that, well, they have close friends with whom they share secrets. Then they have friends with whom they do
mm,
homeworks. Then they have friends with whom they play sports. They have friends with whom they play video games. And the real life social network is this, kind of like almost too messy for someone who's trying to quantify it to kind of
mm.
delve into and really understand what's going on there.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Freddie. I think in terms of summary, we can say that whilst it's easier to quantify online and look at it as if young people are quote unquote addicted to this existence, the reality is that probably little has changed in the offline world in many generations. And the fact is that what is meaningful really happens in the offline world. And these online tools are really there to facilitate that. If you look at what young people do, they're really heading towards an offline encounter or to support an offline peer group relationship at some point by using these tools, but not to start and finish them online. So I think we have to take that into perspective. We have to look at it through that lens when we look at this new research. And thank you very much, Freddie, for helping us understand that. My name's Graham Brown, and today you've been listening to Mobile Youth with our research manager, Freddie Benjamin. If you want to find out more, go to www.mobileyouth.org.